Hey, what's up, everybody? Dr. Ray, and today we're talking about an exciting topic, artificial intelligence. How is AI going to and currently impacting the field of training, e-learning, instructional design, ed tech? How is it affecting us? And what's going to happen? I'm going to talk about, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define what AI is, but I want to talk about how we're currently using this, the stuff that's being developed and worked on right now, and how this is going to impact us in the future. Is this going to impact IDs? Yeah, it will. And I'm going to tell you how it's going to do it. At least my version of how I think it's going to do it. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I want to define what AI is so that we're very clear what I mean when I'm talking about this. I see people throw this word around quite a bit, and I just want you to know what it really is. So here is the definition from dictionary.com so you can understand when I say AI what I'm talking about. It is the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. That's it. The computer being able to perform tasks that require our brains, require us to normally do it, but they're able to do it. Examples include visual perception, speech recognition, decision making, and translation between languages. So now that we have the definition out of the way, let's talk about how we've been using this. How have we been using this thing? All right, so I'm going to talk about some of the ways that we're using artificial intelligence. And in fact, in some ways, we've been using this since I've been in the field for 20 years, some of this stuff. Some of the stuff is a little newer. So here are some examples of things that currently IDs are using for AI. Text-to-voice software. I've been using Well Said professionally for like 2 years now, and we type in the text and it spits out a computer-generated voice for us, which is just amazing. We're not hiring narrators as much as we used to. We still are, but that software has improved significantly in the last like 5 to 7 years, where I am actually using it professionally. Next thing. The drawing software, like with Beyond, where they draw you create like a presentation and it basically draws everything for you, like the drawing videos that you see on YouTube. Yeah, the things that Beyond is doing. Okay, another example. Another thing, character creation. When we're picking, like, do we want the character sitting like this? Do we want them like turned around, turned to the side? All their clothes and all this stuff. Character creation. Next thing. What I'm using right now, the green screen tech, like I can take things in and out, like all the video and image editing stuff that we're doing are things that used to require or have required manpower to actually do it. But now I just can put myself anywhere because we have this magic green screen tech. We have digital zoom on cameras, which we've had for like 20 years. We have Photoshop and AI, Illustrator and, Final Cut and video creation software, just doing things with the press of a button, just basically making it up, trying to think how we would actually like it, and we can kind of play with it and perfect it. These are the ways we're using this technology right now, which is kind of interesting. Okay. Now that's not just how we're using it. Those are just some of the ways we're using it. And some of that maybe is a little stretch to say it's actually AI or not, but it is all computer generated stuff that did require us doing it a different way prior to. All right, so what are some of the things that are being worked on? Some of the things that I'm excited about for AI, because, the things that I just mentioned are all more like helpful things for us. But some of the things coming are a little scary in some ways for someone who is an instructional designer. So let's kind of talk about, I'm going to show you some examples real quick of just a few things that are out there. One of the first things that I have here is up on the screen. You can see this. This is just one of many million, no, I shouldn't say million, but one of many websites. This creates music for you, background music. So you don't need to hire an artist to create music. This literally, like software, creates music, which is kind of crazy to think about. Next one. This actually creates images. You type in what you want the AI to create. Like I can type in cat, man teaching, person eating an apple, person sitting on a bench, person flying a helicopter, and it creates the image for me. I don't need to hire a graphic artist. I don't need to know anything about it. I just type in what I want the image to be and boom, it's like there. And I can keep describing it and like refining it and making it better and better until it's like what I want. Crazy to think about. Creating video. This is actually AI that literally creates little courses for you and little videos. This person that you see up on the screen is AI generated.
You can also upload
and the person talks. You can create a fake person that talks in a video, and all that you're doing to create the whole thing is typing in the text and the content. And every single thing is created. Now, this is new tech. In 5 years from now, this is going to be the tech. Like, this is where ID is headed. When we start talking about like us developing and like Articulate and Captivate, and those are like the main software, like Tora and iSpring and stuff like that, like the main software packages that IDs are using, like this is where development's headed. Where like, we kind of talk about, there's like a thing in the field, people are like, oh, did you work on a team to create that image and all that stuff? It's going to get to the point where like you didn't create anything but like type in content. Like when we talk about like the ID's portfolio, like the portfolio is going to be professionally done by everyone because it's going to be computer generated 100%. Like this is where we're headed, which is really, really, really interesting. Computers are going to get to this is going to get to the point where they're going to be able to take our content and generate assessment questions. They're going to be able to generate content based on our objectives, especially like, when you go into like you buy one of the companies buy like these big video or training libraries of like 25 million different topics. Those kind of generic courses are going to be able to create it really fast when AI has all the content already. And I can just type in like project management course and it'll create the course with my custom images and everything. Like that's kind of crazy. Ability to change things. Like we're creating software that's going to have the ability to change things like characters, content, sounds, voices, translations, cultures really quick. Like just imagine being able to turn, one of the big problems we have with training and taking it from like one country to the next is like cultural differences with like colors and the way they say things. Just imagine like the AI saying like, this is American, make this relevant for the UK. Boom. And it just like does it. Like that's kind of crazy to think about, but we're not too far off from that happening right now. It's also going to be able to create some kind of learning strategies, implement different types of games based on content. Like it's going to be able to create training really quick, pretty easily, with little development from us. And this is, when I talk about like, levels of technology and like where we are and things. This is like, looking at like a cell phone, like when it was like a car phone in 1985, and now we have a little Apple iPhone. Like that's where it's going to go. Like it's going to get bigger and bigger. Some other things that I think is going to happen, I think we're going to see lots of like in training type facilitators, especially in like e-learning, where we have like the help or the, like, how Microsoft had that really annoying paperclip for a really long time in their, in Microsoft Word that everyone hated. I think we're going to have like real in life, almost like lifelike instructors that are able to pop up and help us. Like almost like think of like Microsoft has Cortana, Amazon has Alexa, like Apple has Siri. We're going to have that kind of help in our training software when we need help or we need to ask it questions. It's going to be able to come up and actually help us. Those are going to be able to help us grade better, which is going to be great for instructional designers because right now a lot of times when we're doing like a large scale training of like, 100 people even, like we're pretty much stuck with multiple choice so that it can be graded quickly via a computer. But just imagine if we could have them do a project or a paper and that can be graded instantaneously by some form of AI. So I think that there's some like ways that this is going to significantly help us. It's also one of the ways that I think is going to help, especially like in higher ed, but I think this will really help businesses as well, is it's going to be able to generate different kinds of discussion, which I think is awesome. And that there are AI discussion already happening in like chat bots that we have. They're not great, they're not bad, but they're okay. But as that technology gets better, imagine me being able to take a cohort of learners, even like 1,000 learners at a company while they're going through some e-learning, having a discussion around that, because as a facilitator, you can never monitor that discussion. But with a chat bot, wow, you could actually monitor the discussion and have the chatbot participating and creating relevant discussion. And you're going to think like, oh, chatbots, I hate them and stuff like that. Imagine that it's actually good, because it's going to get good. Yes, it's terrible. Chatbots are terrible right now. I know. But like, that tech is only getting better. We have not even scratched the surface of what this is going to do. All right, so that's kind of so first of all, I talked about some of the ways that we're already using AI. Then I talked about like, what kinds of things are going to be developed or are coming. And it's really like content creation is coming. Like full on content creation is coming. What you're doing in Articulate and Captivate, that's going to be done in AI, and that may be happening like much sooner than you're expecting. Like within 10 years, we will see that become pretty common. So we're seeing the same thing. I'm talking about the same thing in computer programming too. There's discussion out there about like, should people learn to program, because we're going to be able to write program with AI like programs like really quick, pretty soon. Whole different discussion, but very similar. So the type of thing. And yes, you should still learn program and still learn AI or ID and stuff like that. Okay, so having said that, what do I think, where do I think the focus is for instructional design, and how do I see this impacting the field? So that's kind of like the big question, right? Like, okay, there's all this stuff, but how's it going to impact us? That's kind of the $1 million question. And I'm going to talk about what my vision and kind of what I see happening. Now, keep in mind what I'm telling you right now. It is October 13th, 2022 when I'm creating this video. If you ask me in a week from now, it could all change, because something could have changed that changes my mind. Like they release some new tech or whatever happens to be. So if you're watching this in like 5 years from now and you're going to be like, what are you talking about, man? Yes, I'm just predicting right now. So please bear with me as I go through and talk about what I see the future of the ideas with AI. I mean, this is with all the information that I currently have. I'm formulating a hypothesis about what I see the future of ID. Okay, so here's where I think. I think that IDs will be focusing very much on strategy, very much on learning, and not focusing on technology. I think that the focus for instructional designers will, and that's actually how we started, which is kind of funny. It's like back in full circle. I really think we're going to be focusing on strategy and learning. We are not going to be focusing on the tech, because the tech is going to be really quick. And we don't need to create it. We're going to type some stuff in and it's going to be created for us. Like we're not going to need a Captivate developer anymore, or Articulate developer. Like if you're an e-learning developer, like any content creator should be very nervous about the future of AI. So like, how do we fit in around that is really the question. We're going to be focusing, the ID will be focused, we'll be looking for people who are really good in front-end analysis. Like determining what the problem is, determining how we solve the problem. People who can focus on design. And by design, I mean, how do we make learning happen? Who are the people who can make learning happen? Because I can develop right now, like I can develop e-learning and there could be no learning. So like, and the computer is going to run into that same problem, which means that one of the biggest things that we're going to be doing is quality assurance. We're going to be going in when we create these programs, and making sure that learning is actually happening. And we're going to have to change things based on that. As I said, like like the current one where I can type in an image and I might have to keep refining that image to make it perfect. I'm going to keep refining the training and the learning strategy so that learning actually happens. We're going to be doing that same thing with assessment. And we're probably going to still be creating assessment or doing that with assessment, because the computer will never be perfect there. It's going to be really good, but there's always going to be that quality assurance check that's going to be required, because you can't risk millions of dollars and not have it quality checked, right? And then the other big portion that I think IDs are going to be doing is that data analysis piece, the return on investment. How are we going to determine that, and what are the metrics going to be to determine that? And that's where I think those are the areas that I think the ID is going to be focused on. I think the ID skill set is going to move to front-end analysis, design like learning, making learning happening, quality assessment, quality assurance, assessment, and ROI. How do we analyze the data? How do we determine the metrics? Those are the things that I think the ID is going to be focusing on, because all the development part, that whole section of development right now that IDs are so focused on in the field right now with the Articulate and Captivate e-learning is going to be done via AI. That whole e-learning thing that's happening right now in our field is going to be done via AI. It's going to be all the other stuff that becomes the thing that the computer can't really do well. So how does this impact the field? And I kind of have hit on this. So what are the impacts that our field's going to see? I think the skill set's going to change. I think we're going to, like right now, our field has moved from the designer to the developer. And it was doing that when I was in the field 20 years ago. That's nothing new. But really the development, like the person with the pretty portfolio, like people are like, portfolio, 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 let me see how pretty it looks. I think we're already moving away from that right now, because it's so easy to develop a nice looking portfolio that everyone kind of has one. I'm talking to hiring managers who are like, I want to see where the learning happened in this, because every person has a good portfolio. But we're going to move even way further away from that, because a 7-year-old on a computer is going to be able to develop a good portfolio in minutes. Because it's going to happen by just typing in content. You're going to have a cool piece of training that looks pretty. Whether or not it trains is a different story. So we're going to be looking at people who can actually make learning happen. That's what we're going to be looking at. It's going to go back to the actual designer, the one who can pull the right content to make sure there is that alignment, to make sure that training is work. And I'll explain why in a second, why I think that. I think we're going to have way better metrics. I think as AI expands, I think we do a pretty bad job of tracking metrics and training right now. I think the LMSs are okay tools, and they do an okay job of tracking and data analysis, but I think that we're really far away from determining ROI and training. And I think we're going to be able to do that a lot better as this tech improves. I think there's going to be a lot more course customization within companies. Right now, companies can buy like a package that has tons of courses, but I think there's going to be much less of a need to buy those pre-packaged courses, because I think we're going to be able to create them so quickly that we can customize them to the company much, much better. So I think that's one of the impacts of the field. I think there's going to be a lot more courses created, but I think the development is going to take significantly faster. And especially those pre-packaged courses, I think are going to be able to be developed and customized so much faster that I think there's going to be a lot more of that happening. Costs for development are going to go way down. Costs for development is going to go way down. Not because the tech is going to be cheaper, but because we're not going to need a team of graphic artists and developers to do stuff. You're just not going to need it, because development's going to be really quick. You know, if it takes a week or 2 weeks or however long, depending on the length of the course it takes to actually develop it, even like a month to do all the development, record the sound, create all the images, create the videos, create the characters, and put that all into the course, or 2 weeks or whatever it is, that's going to be happening instantaneously. It's all of the upfront work that's going to take as long as it currently does. I think that, so costs for development are going to go way down, because we're not going to need the manpower to develop stuff. But what we are going to need is we are going to need the designers. So I think that cost for designers is actually going to go up, because with those better metrics, better able to determine ROI, better able to show that learning happened, people who have that skill set and can do that are going to be paid more money. So I think that we're going to start seeing like this development costs going down, but increasing costs of instructional designer. Now, whether or not there's the same amount of instructional designers, that's a whole different question. I don't know how that's going to look. I've kind of tried to think that through. Will there be more or less instructional designers? I don't know, because I think that right now because a lot of companies kind of still don't have training people. So I feel like there's this huge need in our field that's just not being met yet. But I think the companies that have large instructional design teams that are all developers, I think that's going to go down. But I think the people who have the skill set to actually show that learning happened and can deliver on that, I think that's where the demand's going to be. So I think that demand for quality is going to improve. And the final thing is that I think our accessibility to content, like when we develop something, we talk about ADA, Disabilities Act, 508 compliance. I think that that's going to improve a ton. I think we're going to develop content and it's going to be accessible to anyone with whatever technology they're using much better than it is now. I think that's going to happen. It's going to be way better with closed captioning, with all the things that we're doing now. I think it's going to improve significantly. So those are those are kind of my thoughts about this. Those are the things I think that are going to happen. Finally, just to kind of recap, I really think that the skill set's going to change. I think the first thing we're going to see is that shift from the developer to the designer. I think that's the first big shift we're going to see as AI technology really starts to take over. I'm really curious to see what happens with technologies like Articulate and Captivate, which are the big ID tools. Like, are they going to be the ones who start to take over as like the AI tools, or is it going to be something else like that one that I just showed you on the screen before? Is it going to be something completely new that we're not aware of that's really going to develop for us? And it's going to be crazy to think about. It's going to be interesting to start to, talk to hiring managers and see, like, as they get these portfolios that are all looking the same and like they're all created by AI, like, what's that going to do? And like, is it going to be just numbers that are going to show, like, we're going to show metrics? Like, it's not going to be like, did learning happening in this module? It's going to be like the ROI for this module, those kind of metrics are going to be what's important and what gets people jobs. It's going to be quite interesting to learn. But I think we're going to go back to being a really good designer is going to be what gets you the job. And I think we're already moving in that direction, but I think it's going to happen on a much larger scale than it is now. And it's going to be very interesting to watch. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and kind of see like what you think is going to happen in the realm of AI and instructional design in years to come. Because, hey, it's all prediction and this is like fun, right? Like we're trying to predict the future. So that's always a fun thing to do. So I'd love to hear what you think about it. Later, everybody.